The Wall Street Journal published an article writing that the U.S. Navy heard the Titan's implosion, quote, a few hours after its launch on Sunday. The noise that was picked up by a, quote, top-secret acoustic detection system designed to spot enemy submarines. The article cites officials involved in the search as well as an anonymous senior U.S. Navy official who said the information was, quote, immediately shared with the incident commander to assist with the ongoing search and rescue mission. Republican representative for New York and a former nuclear submarine officer for the U.S. Navy, Brandon Williams, joins me. Good evening, sir. And based on your experience, your long experience working in submarines, can you tell me, what do you think happened here? I know we're still in investigation, but what does it appear to you?
Well, obviously they had some kind of breach of the pressure vessel, and just the enormous pressure at that depth. You're talking about maybe 5,000 pounds per square inch of pressure down at that depth, maybe even more. Even a pinhole leak would be absolutely catastrophic, just because the integrity of the vessel would be shattered, and it would be a very, very sudden and total collapse. Nothing like you could imagine. More like an explosion than.
Would it be like even the seals around the door to get into this vessel? Could it be like a bad seal, or bad around the windows? That's just a small leak like that.
Many of the things that have a seal and maybe have a lid on top of it, like a hatch, when you go down deep, it actually pushes that even tighter. It makes that seal even tighter. And so, could you have had a sudden, collapse of that seal? Maybe, but it seems like that would have developed as it was going down. My thought is that this is actually some kind of structural problem. Where these pressure vessels are weakest is where what's called a hole penetration. For example, the cables that would go out to connect to the motors, from the batteries that are inside, assuming that they're inside the pressure vessel. Anything that is connected, if it's wires, of course on submarines, on nuclear submarines, we have, water intake to cool our equipment. These would be the weakest places. And so one of the things that we had to do on our submarine when it was a dry dock, the captain would take us down and have us walk underneath and identify every single hole penetration, no matter how small, so that we knew where those weak points were. So a seal is not very likely to me. I mean, it could be. And the truth is, we'll never know, because the nature of this collapse tears it apart.
Well, the way you report what's done in dry dock of the submarine, I'm wondering naturally is the quality control on this. I mean, you've got rules and regulations when you get on an airplane and what has to be tested, and you've got all sorts of things here. Is that, this is a tourist vehicle. Is it subject to any particular stringent rules in order to even be a tourist vehicle?
Greta, the nuclear Navy, our nuclear submarines are built to the standards created by Admiral Rickover, and it's among the most conservative institutions in the world. They do things unbelievably carefully, especially since the 1963 sinking of the USS Thresher. So they implemented a whole program called SubSafe. So the amount of care that the Navy takes on its submarines is unbelievable. It's unmatched. I think perhaps even more than the space program, I would argue. Now, on the other side of that, we have Silicon Valley. I've started a company in Silicon Valley and have been in the tech industry for more than a decade. And so I understand that risk-taking, part of life as well. And I don't think you can take our nuclear submarine fleet and the standards of that and apply them, to what's essentially an experimental vehicle. But there are some precautions clearly that they should take. Perhaps they should be required to take some kind of notice that if there's an accident or if they lose communications, that it sends up a beacon so that we don't search the entire ocean, that we know where to look. I think that would have been a great starting place for the Coast Guard, and maybe we could have had some indication earlier.
Well, I hate to be so simplistic or flip, but every time I lose my ear pods, I can go on my iPhone and get a ping to find them, in our house. So it's like, it's surprising to me that there isn't some redundancy or something there. But anyway, I'll take the last word on that. Congressman Brandon Williams, thank you, sir, for joining me.